Hey everybody, Courtney here with Smitty's Fly Box, and we're just going to be going over our beginner box for April, which is a Hares Ear Nymph, but we're going to give you a slug of different variations you can do with this. So 2 different bead colors, tungsten and a brass bead, 2 different dubbing colors, and then some variables as far as the thorax goes with adding rubber legs and flash to it, or you could do it totally traditional with no bead, no flash, no rubber legs. So we'll go ahead and get started here. On this version, I'm doing the size 14 nymph hook. This is a long shanked hook here, Daiichi, and this is a 2.4 matte black finish tungsten bead. So I'm gonna start my thread right behind the bead. And I'm just gonna bring back here to my tie-in point, which is just right above the barb of the hook. So I'm just gonna leave my thread hanging even with the barb of the hook, and then we're going to tie our tail in. Our tail for this fly is just your regular old squirrel skin. So pine squirrel works really good. So you got a little patch of squirrel skin here, and we're just going to take a little clump of this squirrel hair and just try to cut it as close to the hide as I can. And then without trying to move it around in my fingers too much, I want to try to keep those tips as even as I can, but I'm just going to clean out some of this under fur here just to eliminate any bulk or fluff there. And then just kind of look and see if there's any outstanding pieces of fur there that are sticking out way above the others there. Okay, so on this fly, I'm just going to measure this to be about half the length of the hook. So I want it to just, the tips to extend from the eye just halfway down to the hook. Gonna move that back here to my tie-in point, transfer that to my left hand, and then kind of do a loose wrap up and over the top of this. Another wrap. I'm just gonna check that and make sure it looks about right. And I'm just gonna wrap this whole thing down here. So I'm just gonna come along here and tie that all in. It cinches down pretty good and tight. And then I'm gonna bring my thread back to my tie-in point again. Got a couple that are still a little long there. I'm not gonna worry too much about it though. Okay, for our next step, we're just gonna be adding in our ribbing, which is just gonna be gold flash. So the spool you got is gonna have silver and gold on either side. So you just wanna make sure when you're tying this in, that you're tying this in with the silver side facing you. So I'm just gonna tie that in at a 45-degree angle. Just catch that by the tip of the flash. So now when I rotate this, the gold will be standing out against the dubbing. Okay, the next we're just going to be tying in our rabbit dubbing. So the 2 different colors you got, natural and olive. Natural is going to have a lot more guard hair in it, so just be aware of that, and I'll show you how to work with that here specifically on this video. But basically just looks like something you pull off a barbed wire fence is really all that is. So just really kind of straight off the rabbit, hasn't been dyed or anything. So with the abdomen, when I'm using this guard hair stuff, if that's all I've got, typically I'd just like to use more finer rabbit dubbing for the abdomen. But if I only have guard hair Hares Ear dubbing, I'm just going to take a very small pinch here because I want to lay a small base layer of dubbing down for my abdomen and leave the beefier section for my thorax. So it dubs on really nice still. I just want to make sure I'm not using a bunch on this abdomen portion of the fly. So I'm just going to start wrapping this up the hook shank. Just one wrap right in front of the other. I'm going to stop at about the halfway point, maybe just a little beyond the halfway point where we're going to add in our thorax. Okay, now I'm just going to take my flash and just evenly spiral wrap this through my dubbing. Should get about 3 or 4 turns of this that goes through. And I'll tie this guy down. So I'm just going to tie in a piece of this pearlescent flash. I'm going to tie it right on top of the hook shank so it's centered. I'll just leave that hanging out right now. And then we're going to take our pheasant tail. And I like to take a clump that's about the same width as the bead. So that's what I look for when I when I cut it out. And I just like to trim it so those butt ends are all even. And I'm just going to tie that in just again right as straight as I can on top of the hook shank, trying to keep that clump together so it doesn't separate and fan out when I go to fold this over. Okay, and now we're ready to add in our thorax dubbing. So again, I'm going to be using the same dubbing. I'm just going to be adding a little bit more to it than that. If you kind of notice, sometimes there can be some clumps in that dubbing there. So I'm just going to preen it out, just kind of pull it apart, kind of eliminates the clumps, gets them out of there, so it doesn't add any unnecessary bulk or makes it hard to dub onto your thread. I'm just going to roll that on, just nice and tight, always rolling that dubbing in one direction. You don't want to roll it back and forth, as it'll come undone. And I'm just going to take my time here, and I'm going to make sure I wrap back onto that wing case so there's not a dead spot behind there, and then just build that forward. I'm going to add a little bit more. Again, we're really going to build this thorax up a little thicker than our abdomen. And just come back, add some more, and then we're ready to finish our wing case and pull that over. So if you wanted to add rubber legs, I'm going to show you how to do that right now as well. What we've given you in the box are two different colors of fine rubber legs, just round rubber legs, black, and then one is brown barred with gold coloring. So both really good colors to use. I'm just going to go ahead and cut a little strip here. And I'm just going to center these on the side of the hook shank. So I'm going to come up a little bit from where I tied my wing case in. And if I just do a loose wrap and then just pinch that right against the side of the hook, I can come in and move those as I need. And then we'll do that on the opposite side as well. Loose wrap, and just grab that as you're coming back up and under the hook, and that'll cinch that rubber leg, those rubber legs down nice and tight. Okay, so that's all it is for our rubber legs, and now we're just going to go ahead and do our dubbing of our thorax. So just like I showed you just previously, we're just going to take a good little clump of this hare's ear dubbing, roll that on nice and tight. And this is where we're going to build up a little bit more of bulk here, so I'm actually going to come behind the legs. Another turn there, and then I'm going to come right in between the back and front legs, and then in front here. Just move these legs out of the way as you go. I'm going to add just a little bit more dubbing because we're going to end up brushing this thorax out to make it a little more buggy. I'm actually going to come back just a little bit. Just fold these back and then come in between and then right up behind the bead again. Okay, and then I'm just going to reposition these as I need as they've moved around from using all that dubbing. Okay, but they're right where I want them. And now we're going to pull our wing case over. So first I'm going to take my pheasant tail. And what I like to do with the pheasant tail is just grab all those fibers and I just kind of pull them up over the top, and then if you kind of just move them back and forth like that, it kind of helps them spread out a little bit. And then we can bring our thread up and over the top, and we just want to make sure that we're tying that down right on top of the hook shank. It's not slipping over to the side. Cut those off flush with the bead, and then I'll pull my flash up and over the top and anchor that down as well. Cut that off, then we're all set to go. So we're just going to go ahead and whip finish this, and just make sure you don't catch a leg in your whip finish. And then I'm just going to take my Velcro brush that I've got, and I'm just going to brush this thorax out. Is all we're going to do. Just kind of rough that up. That just adds a little bit of movement to the fly. I think it looks really good though when you get all this brushed out. So you can do this either way, with the legs, without the legs, with the flash or without. You can even do it without the bead if you want. And this is a versatile fly, fished all over the country. Just a super great pattern to have in your fly box. We like it with these rubber legs, especially this springtime. In the higher water, when we start to get a little bit of runoff going on, I just like those as little stonefly patterns there. So I think it looks a little pretty cool with the rubber legs moving, and you can shorten them up however you want, but great little fly to have. So let us know how you do with it, and we'd love to see what you come up with.